Hello, my name is Merc, and thank you for coming to my video. This is my video essay on why I think Love Live Sunshine Over the Rainbow is underrated. And I know this is a long video, so I'll be providing timestamps on screen. And if I can, I'll try to get those working on the video player in YouTube itself. I'll also have a link in the description to a WordPress article which will serve as a loose script for the video. So, without further ado, let's get started. In the 2 years that Over the Rainbow has been out, most discourse I've seen surrounding the film has largely revolved around praising its insert songs and its original soundtrack, while rating its story as enjoyable at best and nonsensical third-year pandering at worst. When I watched this movie for the first time, I really enjoyed it, and I've only grown to love this film more and more upon repeat watchings. The opening number by itself is a love letter and advertisement for the entire Numazu Uchura area. And then there's the sheer scale of the 3D set in Toso Meso Mobius Loop, when you have Rome in the distance and then you zoom into the third years at the Hilltop Mansion. And then there's the dynamic lighting engine in the 3D portions in Brightest Melody. And then there's also the large swelling musical moments from composer Tatsuya Kato. And the overall high production values and consistency of the 2D and 3D animation with the near seamless transitions. The part that I've grown to love and appreciate the most is the narrative. When talking about the narrative with other people though, the narrative, it's been described as something thrown together to give the cast something to do after the graduation and wonderful stories. And I can't argue that it is accurate, since at the end of the day, it's designed to entice the audience to watch the movie, purchase merchandise, and attract more people to try and attend Aqua's 5th Live next Sparkling. And despite it possibly having a large amount of its roots tracing back to capitalism and raking in more income, there was still an immense amount of care put into crafting its story. There's just a certain amount of framing and effort from the audience needed to let this film show its true colors. In most narratives, the cast goes through some sort of struggle, whether that be internal or external. What is the problem or issue? What is driving our characters forward? What is their call to action, their goal, their objective? But just because a certain objective is centered around a certain group of characters, the third years in this case, it doesn't mean that the story is entirely about them. This narrative is about who rises up to the occasion to complete these objectives, and these characters are the first and second years, and how they go about solving them. In this video essay, I intend to cover from start to finish how the film caps off Aqua's growth as a group and individuals, and how they use their newfound strength and share it with others. This will cover mainly story and visual elements, but will also incorporate song composition and lyric analysis when applicable. Any references to lyrics will be restricted to portions within the movie and based on those that Team Onibe and the Love Live Wikia page have provided. So, there are 3 main objectives in the film that the cast must complete. The first objective is determining how Aqua will function throughout the third years, especially when they have to impress Numazu High School, the new school that they are transferring to, and not be relegated to Seishin High School, the dilapidated elementary school building that is technically a part of Numazu High School, but it's an old, rundown building. The second objective revolves around Mari's communication problems with her mother and how she, Kanan, and Daya still try to solve issues like they had previously by running away. Once again, even though that this objective is centered around the third years, the film is not about the third year solving the problem, but about how the first and second years go about solving this. The third and final objective is about determining how Leah would continue Saint Snow and her career as a school idol. In the past, people have dismissed this as a rehash of the Awaken the Power arc of the anime, but that arc was more centered around how Ruby and Leah would show their appreciation for everything that their older sisters have done, and giving Sarah one last performance to end her career. Though it is important to Leah's growth and characterization, this is admittedly the hardest arc to empathize with, since it requires some amount of experience in the performing arts to feel what Leah feels, from the middle of Season 2 up until the end of this film. And I hope I can convey what Leah feels through explaining an experience that I had as a performer. Mari's opening line of the film, "It's about the future of us third years and of Aqua," is meant to be taken literally. The third years are technically no longer members of Aqua, and I think this was misinterpreted by a lot of viewers to frame the movie around the third years and the first and second years as an afterthought. This early misinterpretation sets up the film to be only about the third years, again like a significant portion of the anime. With these two factors, it becomes very easy to dismiss the movie as third-year pandering. The line should be interpreted instead as framing the movie about being two distinct groups, the third years and the current Aqua, of more equal importance. With this angle in mind, the story's significance begins to show when we direct our attention to the first and second years. After that introductory sequence, we have our first song, Bokura no Hashitakita Michiba. I'm going to shorten it to Boku Michi. And we cut to the remaining Aqua members at the train station. Overall, the only significant visual detail in this song is the costume design. We see the first and second years with a more casual outfit with their jackets open and they don't have neckties. As opposed to the third years, they have their jackets zipped up and they are wearing neckties, symbolizing their transition to the adult world by wearing something a typical salary woman would wear in the workplace. After Bokumichi and continuing on from Season 2, the first years are wearing vastly different outfits from what they typically wear. Yoshiko has traded her trademark bun for a braid, Ruby has traded her pigtails for a single side tail, and we see Hanamaru wearing glasses, as opposed to what we can expect to be contacts during the entire duration of the anime. The three of them are trying out new things rather than staying with the familiar. They're a bit more comfortable in their own skin. The six decide that they should find a new practice spot as part of their fresh start as part of Numazu High School, and decide to visit the school building that they will be using. After seeing the dilapidated Seishin High School and trying to figure out why they are being put there, Chika and Riko discover that Yo is talking to a boy, and Yoshiko, who is usually the deluded one of the group, is the one to snap Chika and Riko back to reality. The group decides to follow Yo and the boy around town, and they typically have to take cover. And there's this one little portion where Riko is hiding in the shadow of a complete stranger's dog, showing how she's grown a lot more and more accustomed to being around dogs. Moving on from her pug Prelude and Shitake to any stranger's dog. These are all small but nonetheless moments highlighting the growth and progression of these characters from the beginning of the anime all the way up until this point. As for the boy, later on being revealed to be Yo's female cousin Suki, I think she was just a remnant of an old concept that was later converted into a supporting role and liaison between Aqua and Numazu High School, rather than just a convenient plot device to serve as their translator and tour guide in Italy, and camera woman for Hop Stop Nonstop, and the coordinator for the Believe Again Brightest melody sequence. Suki then presents the first goal Aqua has to overcome as a group of 6, our objective number 1. Chika attempts to take the lead as she has always done before, and they ultimately fail. It's important to remember that this is Aqua's first performance as a 6-member group since performing Yume de Yozora wo Terashitai in episodes 7 and 8 of Season 1. The latter performance earning them 0 fans and last place out of 30 other groups at their exhibition performance in Tokyo. They didn't have the third-year support in being secondary leads in the group, and probably had concerns like, have I grown at all, or we should be fine without the third years, right? Or can we really continue as Aqua by ourselves going into the performance? Chika and Riko chat later that evening, and they decide to just keep moving forward even if they don't know exactly where they're going. This is an improvement over prior failures where they would need to cry it out. But this time, they just said, hey, we failed. Let's just try and pick up where we left off, try and practice and get our confidence back. Chika then takes the initiative to call Saint Snow to have them watch and evaluate Aqua's current performance. As a side note, for a later portion of the film, Leah gulps as if she's jealous that Aqua can perform at least something right on the spot, and Ruby picks up on this visual tell. Sarah then critiques Aqua's performance, and we see Yoshiko, who is normally the one who's the most visibly and vocally upset at any sort of criticism directed towards her. She's still visibly upset, but she doesn't question Saint Snow's assessment. She doesn't argue anything back towards them. After asking Saint Snow for advice, Leah states that they should be trying to solve these problems on their own without the third year's help, and runs off. Sarah then exposits Leah's problems with rebuilding Saint Snow. She can't retain any new members with her brand of practice and performance intensity, much like how Nico pushed away her original group members in the School Idol project. This further supports how this isn't the same problem Leah had during the Awaken the Power arc, and frames objective number 3. We are then introduced to Mari's mother, and she sends Aqua on their quest to Italy with some help from Sarah, saying it would be a good idea for Aqua to reflect on their history by meeting with the third years. Overall, the first years have gotten more comfortable in their self-images to the point that they are experimenting with new looks. We see Ruby growing into being the attentive one of the group, and we also see Yoshiko being more open to criticism, as demonstrated by not arguing back. Act 2 is without a doubt the biggest portion of the movie that is designed to have the most moments of cute girls doing cute things. We spend a lot of the time with the cast exploring Rome and Italian cuisine. The story picks up again when the cast meets with the third years before Toso Meso Mobius Loop, which I will be abbreviating as TMML from this point forward. Not much character growth is shown here, but mainly plot progression. We learn that this was an unsanctioned trip/vacation before the third years run away. TMML makes up for the lack of meaningful character progression by instead expositing the third year's plan for Mari to achieve independence from her family, and setting the stage for the first years to step up to the plate and shine. TMML is a big band jazz piece, a musical style heavily associated with freedom and rebellion from the classical approach to music composition. Mari's mom is more of the traditional mindset with the arranged marriage and heavy control of the family's women in a patriarchal family unit, because if we remember back to the anime, she was told by Mari's father to let Mari go back to Uranohoshi, and Mari is trying to break free from her by leading this jazz piece. On a narrative level, this is a rehash of the third year's prior behavior. The third years, mainly Kanan and Mari, and Daya enabling them to be the way that they are, separated because they both thought that they were in the right and didn't communicate properly with each other. They ran away from the misunderstandings and had their falling out. Once again, we see Mari running away from the issue of her relationship problems with her mother, and these lyrics reflect them running away and how they're constantly trying to hide from Mari's mother, much like how Kanan and Mari avoided talking about their show as first years for a whole 2 years. Later, the lyrics reference it being in a loop, a circle, a Mobius loop, a surface with only one side and a boundary curve that loops back into itself without any hard corners. The third years are stuck in this loop of running away from Mari's mother in pursuit of true freedom, when it is exactly that confrontation that will give Mari the freedom that she wants. So long as Mari keeps running away, she will never obtain the freedom she wants. This also illustrates that despite the third year solving their communication issue in Season 1, they still have not had substantial growth. TMML is all about Mari's struggle to break free and achieve independence, but ultimately continues the cycle of being chained down to her mother through her methods. We return to the first and second years trying to solve Mari's cryptic message and have more of the cute girls doing cute things until Yoshiko figures out which church to go to, and Ruby catches the light signal from the mansion the third years are staying at. Eventually, Mari's mother catches up with all of them, and Mari's forced to have that confrontation, the very thing she was running away from in TMML, and breaks the Mobius loop. The two parties come to an agreement that if Aqua can't win over Mari's mom with the show, Mari will return home and get married and go to college as originally planned. We then cut to a short scene to show us how Saint Snow has been doing, and Leah's overall efforts to rebuild Saint Snow. They continue to be fruitless. We return back to Aqua discussing how they are going to impress Mari's mother. The seating arrangement in this restaurant is incredibly important. We have the role models, the third years, Chika and Rico, the song composition team, and Ruby, who tends to pair up with Daya, at the main table. Yo and Suki are over at their own table for two because the two are cousins, and Yo is part of the costume design side of the creative team, and she doesn't have much to do in this situation and is away from the main table. The same goes for Hanamaru and Yoshiko. Neither were major players in the creative process to begin with. Yoshiko, up until this point, was their video and social media manager, and Hanamaru was mostly along for the ride on her own journey of self-improvement, from the quiet, non-athletic bookworm to a fully fledged school idol. This is reflective of Aqua's prior group dynamic throughout the television anime. Throughout the film, we see the first years becoming more attentive and invested in the situation and overcoming some of the obstacles in Aqua's path, and it culminates to the point where Hanamaru, the most distant member from the creative process, interjects and asks that the first year have a say in the creative process. Ruby takes this even further and requests that the entire creative process be left to the first years. This is the first years taking charge to solve objective number 2. How will Aqua convince Mari's mother that Mari is ready for independence and that her time spent at Uranohoshi was not wasted? Afterwards, we have a short scene where Chika does get to have her discussion with the third years and about what the current Aqua should do. Mari and Kanan decline to tell them, but instead give them a hint about how to look at their current predicament, that the third years are indeed gone, but that their experiences and feelings with the third years are not. After an unspecified amount of time in Rome, we transition to Hop Stop Non-Stop. In terms of composition, we have the first and second years performing the lead parts, whilst the third years are in the accompaniment and harmonic roles, most prominently in the response sections of the chorus. This is a clear role reversal between the first and third years. In this iteration of Aqua, the first years are performing the parts that make up the fundamentals of the song, and the third years are performing the auxiliary parts. The most prominent examples of this arrangement are in Aozora Jumping Heart and Wonderful Stories choruses. Note, my music theory overall is incredibly rusty, and I am open to being corrected. My music experience includes band from 7th to 12th grade, 1 year in a junior drum and bugle corps, 2 years in a collegiate concert band for non-majors, and 1 entry-level collegiate music theory class. So, each song is in a particular key, and the main note of the key, the root, is the note the rest of the song is built around. Melodic lines often return or resolve to this note for a satisfying conclusion. In Aozora Jumping Heart and Wonderful Stories, the second and third years sing the first lines of the chorus and return to the root, and then we have the first years sing a supporting line that also returns to the root. However, because the first lines of each chorus return to the root, the supporting line is not necessary for the song to function. The supporting lines sound great when they're used, but they're ultimately extra flourishes, much like icing on a cake. When relating this to Aqua's group dynamic, the first years sound great when they're there, but their part can be totally omitted. In Hop Stop Non-Stop, the third years are singing the supporting lines during the chorus, a part that is good to have, but can be removed, much like how they are officially no longer active members of Aqua. Hop Stop Non-Stop was the turning point for the first years to cement themselves as the core members of Aqua, doing the heavy lifting by carrying the main melodic line, whilst having the third years in a supportive role. Hop Stop Non-Stop is also smart with its visuals and utilization of pink carnations. Pink is a standard color for things that are cute and stereotypically girly, idols, and the pink carnations help tie this down as an idol song since Aqua doesn't have access to their costumes and only their street clothes. However, if that's all the creators were aiming for, why pink carnations specifically? Carnations are flowers typically associated with love in the language of flowers and are native to the Mediterranean. Pink carnations, specifically, have a dual meaning of representing a mother's love to her children and a feeling of gratitude from children to their mothers. In spite of Mari's behavior, Mari's mother never gave up on trying to do what she thought was best for her daughter. And throughout the development cycle of Hop Stop Non-Stop, Mari was able to accept her mother's feelings despite the disagreements, and was grateful for both the effort over the years and eventual acceptance of the woman she has become. Her gratitude was visualized as the wind blowing the flower petals towards the camera at the end of Mari's solo, in the same direction Mari's mother is watching their performance from. Mari then, after the song, explains how Aqua has helped her grow up, and Mari's mother walks away having nothing more to say to Mari, acknowledging her growth and independence. The petal falling into Mari's hands can be interpreted as the carnations she sent to her mother returning back to her, as her mother reciprocates her love and the two reconciling. The group then remains in Rome to make the trip into a proper vacation and research trip before returning home to Numazu. In short, Act 2 and the trip to Italy is typically written off as a pointless trip to put the girls in a new setting to do cute things, and it does accomplish that. However, TMML and Hop Stop Nonstop bring the plot and character progression the film needs to keep the cast moving forward and growing and allow the time for us to watch the cute girls do cute things. When we return to Numazu, we are reminded that only some of the students and parents are convinced that Aqua is a club that is serious and professional about the craft, and there's still much more work to do to be officially recognized as worthy students to attend Numazu High School. Rico and Chica then briefly exposit the audience on the specifics of what Aqua did during their time in Italy. Rico and Chica are still doing the bulk of music in their composition, and Rico went to go watch some shows to get some ideas. Hanamaru is now in the costume design department with Ruby when she wasn't explicitly part of any creative process aside from My Mind Tonight. Yoshiko and Yo are the new choreography design team, taking Daya and Kanon's places. It spells out the new Aqua's division of labor from the old dynamics of Yoshiko on webpage and PV design and editing, Chica and Rico on song composition, Kanon and Daya on choreography design, and Ruby and Yo on costume design. In this iteration of Aqua, the entire team is working on the creative process for their future performances. We cut to the cafe scene where Aqua is deciding whether or not having Leah join Aqua is the best course of action. Ruby, who knows Leah the best, is trusting that Leah's gut reaction to remake her own Saint Snow is the best course of action, and what Leah truly wants is a school idol. Ruby spells it out for Aqua that Leah was still clinging to her failure and her regret over Dropout, and how Leah wished that it wasn't her last show with Sarah. We then cut to Leah's soliloquy, which lays out her motivations in the film. Leah clearly states how she wished that her performance of Dropout was not her final show with Sarah, and it really cannot be made any clearer. Leah is motivated by her regret over not having the perfect last show with Sarah at the Love Live finals. She is currently chasing a group that will perform strong enough to make it to the finals and have that perfect last show she wanted with Sarah for herself. It would be the very next closest thing. This is the portion of objective number 3 that requires a lot of audience empathy to work as intended. For those who have not participated in the performing arts, I was taught to perform like it's the last show you'll ever perform during my time in multiple concert and marching groups, to leave it on the field and or stage for every performance because no future performance opportunity was ever guaranteed. I had a university concert band performance once where I just had a very, very bad run on show night. It was probably the worst, relatively the worst I had ever performed. It would have been my final performance in my concert band career at that point, but I was lucky enough to enroll again in the following semester and not let that be my last show. The following semester, I practiced as much as I could before, in between, and after classes to nail my parts and have as perfect a last show as I could have. It was my sole driving force and motivation throughout that semester. On show night, I had arguably one of the best concert band runs I've ever had, and I no longer have any desire to return to the concert stage. I was incredibly happy and satisfied with that performance. And failures can really eat at you. They just consume you. They're all you think about until you do something to, satisfy that urge. And much like that semester, Leah's failure had consumed her, and it was projected on all the new members. During season 2, she was too focused on the end goal and failed her dropout performance, leaving that as her last show with Sarah. A critical trip and fall on the marathon to compete in the Love Live finals. And she's just so hung up on this. And that's where Leah is coming from. Going back to Over the Rainbow, it's difficult to acknowledge Believe Again as a necessary step in her arc without this perspective in mind, because people will think and have thought she got to perform with Sarah after. Just look at Awaken the Power. Performing as Saint Aqua Snow and performing as Saint Snow are two incredibly different entities. Leah emotionally needed that satisfying final performance with just her sister to move on from her failure and recreate Saint Snow without overbearing motivations. Additionally, Awaken the Power was focused on making a satisfying last performance for Sarah, to satisfy her emotional needs more than Leah's own needs. She didn't exactly have that final performance that she wanted during that arc. With these contexts in mind, Ruby's idea of recreating their own Love Live finals or exhibition performance was exactly the thing Leah needed to do with Sarah. A final showdown between Saint Snow and Aqua at full strength to end their quote-unquote competitive season, complete with original songs that had not been performed beforehand as per competition rules. Believe Again has incredibly smart lyrics in how it works in both the context as their intended final song for the competitive season, and in the current context after they had failed to compete at the finals and after Leah had failed to make a new Saint Snow. It was originally written to allude to their prior attempts to win the Love Live competition, taking what they learned from those performances and channeling it into all their future performances. Within the context of this film, it is alluding to Leah's personal failures and dropout and her inability to retain membership. Another perspective is that Believe Again is a conversation from Sarah to Leah, representing the original / past generations of Saint Snow and the new / current / future generations of Saint Snow. In that, as long as each succeeding generation of Saint Snow maintains that same drive for excellence, the older generations will remain proud and hold no grudges or anything like that. It is the conversation that Sarah never got to have with Leah because she was dealing with her own feelings of loss off screen and did not want to add more weight upon Leah's shoulders with her quest to find a new Saint Snow. The conversation through this song and performance set Leah free from her past mistakes and allowed her to move forward as seen in the credits. To cap off Believe Again, the creators brought back the feather motif, just as Muse had found their dove feathers by finding their reasons to perform and paving the way for school idols to soar up to greatness, and Aqua's feather turned from white to blue when they had found their own identity during Water Blue New World. Leah had found her Saint Snow with the purple feather floating by, signifying her growth and completion of her own journey. Leah's arc in the film is very separate from the Awaken the Power arc, and is its own functional arc, providing context on what it means to be a performer, and who each performance was designed for. Looking at Brightest Melody, it serves largely the same purpose as Believe Again, a dialogue between the third years and the first and second years of Aqua, as they reflect and celebrate the past and look forward to the future encounters with each other. Once again, like in Bokumichi, the costume design and position have subtle nods to the changes in the group dynamics. The first and second years continue to wear skirts, while the third years are wearing pants that cover up the legs and costumes that resemble full suits resembling the typical workplace attire of salaried women. Additionally, with the first and second years mid-song costume change where they remove the jackets, Aqua changes from a 9-member unit clad in blue to the current 6-member unit clad in white, with the third years as guests still in their aqua blue. Additionally, the white dresses symbolize Aqua's fresh start, as white commonly represents something new, a blank slate. The blue trim on the dresses is representative of their past experiences, as they aren't starting completely from zero, carrying their past year of experience forwards. Then, for the entire duration of the course, the first years are in the third year's old position on stage left, as opposed to stage right. Brightest Melody has a very similar message as Believe Again, but also serves to cement the new dynamic of Aqua through its visuals. Act 3 has the cast solve objective number 3 and set up the resolution for objective number 1. It is the shortest portion of the film, but is incredibly dense in its characterization of Ruby and Leah and visual storytelling. We see the current Aqua working on their first full project and the completion of Leah's arc, and the foundation of the new Saint Snow. Though this act requires a large amount of framing and is not as relatable as other themes throughout the series, it is still an emotionally powerful and resonant arc for those who have gone through the same experiences Leah has. After the Believe Again Brightest Melody sequence, we dive straight into our next insert song and montage, Kiseki Hikaru, and this song has the entire group reflecting on their accomplishments and wanting to tell their past selves that all of their work will pay off, and also to hype themselves up that all the work they're doing now will pay off in the end. Visually, we have a passing of the torch with Mari leaving Yoshiko the Sushin recipe to turn it into something else, while she leaves to advertise the upcoming live at Numazu Station. We also see Yoshiko helping with costume production to make up for the decreased manpower. Later on, we see the first years leading the pack during a warm-up / training run, showing that the first years and second years are going to be working side by side to push each other forward. We then see Suki and some Numazu high school students arrive to help with finishing touches on the stage, showing how their work and refound confidence from Brightest Melody is convincing Numazu high school students to be welcoming to the Uranohoshi students. The main cast then returns to Uranohoshi with the first years sporting some new hairstyles yet again to reminisce one more time. The third years mention how they will watch just enough of the live to know for sure that Aqua will be fine and they'll be off. Later they find that the gate is open, however instead of going back inside, like Chika had during the epilogue of Season 2 Episode 13, none of them felt the need to go back inside the school itself. Everyone has moved on from Uranohoshi, but they still carry all the memories and feelings of Uranohoshi with them forwards. When we arrive at Numazu Station, the venue for the festival and live, we see the Numazu high school students advertising the live, while the Uranohoshi high school students are helping with backstage preparations. We then cut to not Chika, the leader of Aqua, nor Suki, the Numazu high school student council president, but Ruby, whose first line in the anime was incredibly panicked and shrill screech, providing the announcement that they were about to begin. This is the final piece of Ruby's development, showing how far she's come throughout the series, from being incapable of normal social conversation to providing an announcement to a bunch of strangers that their show is about to begin. We then have Aqua doing their group rally, sans third years, but they're still just as ready for their show as if they were always there, and the show begins. Next Sparkling has its first verse as a message from the first and second years that they will be okay with the third years gone, and leave Next Sparkling as a present for them to look back on. Towards the end of the first chorus, we see the third years leave and we transition to the second verse, which I believe does not exist in universe. Aqua is standing on stage taking in the applause, and Chika then begins the choreography for their next song. Instead of watching the rest of the actual live performance, we then continue Next Sparkling, much like with Bokudachi wa Hitotsu no Hikari in the School Idol Project movie's credit sequence. The second verse serves as the third year's response to the current Aqua that even though they are moving on and might change as they grow up, they will still share the exact same feelings. The bridge has all of Aqua sharing their resolve to keep going no matter what, while promising to never forget the experiences and feelings they all shared. We also get a very short scene in the credits of Leah handing out her crew and flyers and staying strong despite facing rejection. She eventually meets one potential member for Saint Snow, showing Leah's hard work and newfound resolve paying off. Next Sparkling overall serves as all 11 girls promising to keep moving forward while cherishing the past but not lingering on it. Visually, the angel/bird motif is very simple. The third years have fully grown out their own sets of wings as they move on towards the adult world, while the first and second years each only have one wing, still needing each other to fly, but are on their way. Finally, in the epilogue, we hear 3 brand new voices, referencing an Aqua Live and wanting to become school idols themselves. They refer to one of Aqua's practice beaches, La 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 Sun Beach or Mito Beach, as a holy ground of sorts, cluing us in that Aqua has persisted and thrived at Numazu High School. I've seen several debates about the inclusion of Next Sparkling instead of Over the Next Rainbow, and people trying to justify one song over the other. I was originally in favor of Over the Next Rainbow and had my own rewrite for its inclusion, which had Leah using it as an extra opportunity/performance to use as advertisement for recruitment back at Hokkaido. Functionally, both songs convey similar messages of never letting go of their experiences and memories as they charge forward in life. However, after reevaluating my rewrite and analyzing the song's lyrics and overall composition, Saint Snow has disproportionately fewer lines than Aqua and wouldn't serve to showcase Saint Snow all that well. It is structured around showcasing the different subunits, Sharon, Guilty Kiss, Azalea, and Saint Snow, as opposed to the year groups like in Next Sparkling. Over the Next Rainbow lacks the conversation between generations and the overall narrative and emotional impact of said conversation, though I still think Over the Next Rainbow could have worked as the final insert song or credit song. Next Sparkling keeps the momentum of Act 3 all the way through the epilogue until the curtains close. Though the film's objectives may appear to be unfocused and scattered, they neatly lead into each other, with one success being the impetus to solving another. The objectives were presented out of order, but much like in real life, we don't necessarily solve each one we come across in order of appearance. The narrative shows us visually and verbally how Aqua will function out the third years, with the first years carrying the group more than any of us would have ever imagined, capping off their growth. It was incredibly efficient at showing us Aqua's numerous changes and instances of growth, that the creators are even able to add in an entire arc around Saint Snow and still keep the film under 2 hours. The film could have been an easy, soulless cash grab, but it really did continue the story in dynamic ways and really left a fat definitive period at the end of both Aqua's and Saint Snow's stories. I hope that this video essay was able to convince you that some aspect of this film was a little bit underrated, and you walk away thinking the film was at least a little bit better than you had initially thought. I thank you all for making it all the way to the end. I know this was an incredibly long video, but it really does mean a lot that you made it all the way here. If you'd like to discuss the movie with me, leave a comment, tweet at me, or if you see me on Discord, chat me up there, and I'd be more than happy to keep talking about this movie. I'd like to give a special shout out to my friend Battle. I did a Love Live Sunshine rewatch a while back, about 6 months ago, and he helped me take down a lot of notes, get a lot of ideas going. And I always went to him if I wasn't sure on a detail or two. He's a really cool guy, and I really can't thank him enough, because if I hadn't been chatting him up during my rewatch, I probably would not have gotten started on this massive project. So, Battle, if you're here, thank you again, bud. And yeah, thank you all for watching or listening or whatever. Really, it does mean a lot that you made it this far. Okay, thank you, Merc out.